Hi guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Ash.
And this is F1 Fanatics. Welcome back to another race review podcast, which is where we go into a little bit more depth looking at the race after our initial race reaction thoughts that we give immediately past the race. In any instance, we might kind of look in a bit more detail. We might have a different view on things, or we might think exactly the same. But anyway, it's a good chance to kind of look into the race in a little bit more depth, Ash, isn't it?
It is, especially as we have a bit more time to actually analyse what we saw rather than having that instant. And also, I can tell Mike things this time, because if you did watch our live reaction, Mike was trying to ask me questions which worked brilliantly, other than the fact my internet stopped working halfway through. So it meant I had the video on my phone, but wasn't able to search anything to actually answer the questions that he was giving me.
And I was just lost on camera. Ash, are you out there, Ash?
So yeah, we now actually have the opportunity to explain where we were going.
And talk what the hell we were on about, basically. But guys, if you are new around here, don't forget you can subscribe to the channel and click that bell notification. Keep up to date with all our latest content. In the top right hand corner, you will have our Twitter handle where you can follow us, and that's obviously much more instant and up-to-date info. But for now, we'll get into the race review podcast. And what we're going to start off with is just, if you don't know already, I'd be surprised, but just to fill you in, of the 1 to 20 on the grid. So number 1 was Lewis Hamilton, closing in on that 6th World Driving Championship. Number 2, Sebastian Vettel. 3 was Valtteri Bottas, 4 was Charles Leclerc, 5 was Alex Albon, 6 was Max Verstappen, 7 in his home Grand Prix, Checo Perez. That's going to be just on the screen, so that's been quite funny from there. 8 was Danny Ricciardo, couldn't get past Checo in the last few laps. 9 was Pierre Gasly, promoted with Daniel Kvyat's penalty. 10 was Nico Hülkenberg. 11 was Daniel Kvyat with that late penalty. 12 was Lance Stroll. 13 was, 13, who was it? Carlos Sainz. 14 was Antonio Giovinazzi. 15 was Kevin Magnussen. 16 was George Russell, finishing ahead of the Haas of Roman Grosjean in P17. And then last, probably least in this situation, was Robert Kubica with P18. And then the 2 retirees from the race were Kimi Räikkönen and Lando Norris. But now we'll get into talking about the race, and I suppose the best place to really start off with is Mercedes and how they just got it so right again with strategy, Ash.
Yeah, it's the one thing that we can say has been consistent throughout this season. Mercedes seem to just know when to pull the trigger on a one-stop, make sure that they are doing that alternate strategy to the teams around them, and it works in their favour. And when you've got a driver like Lewis Hamilton, who is very good at managing his tyres, it just makes things a lot easier. And I would say that it's something this season that we're seeing a lot more of that we haven't before. Normally you'd turn around and say the one thing for Lewis Hamilton is that out-and-out pace on a Saturday, gets himself on pole position, and then can just run away with the race and control it himself. This year he hasn't had it his own way in qualifying, but is able to turn up on a Sunday, manage his tyres, and just show that racecraft that he does have, and we're seeing a lot more of it now.
Yeah, and when is he going to start listening to Mercedes radio calls that they got it right? Because I'd say the only time that they got it wrong this year for him was in Hungary.
They got it right in Hungary. You mean Singapore?
Sorry, yeah, God. No,
they definitely got it right in Hungary.
They got it. Yeah, they got it wrong in Singapore and Hockenheim.
Yes.
I knew the race I meant, but I said Hungary. It began with a H. Give me a break, eh? Break. But they got it very right here, and I think there was, if you go and check out Twitter, I shared the video of Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton in the press conference after, and Sebastian Vettel comparing like the way that Lewis saw the tyres through to the end was giving a woman a massage, and he was like going, if you are so lucky how he caressed you in a massage like he caressed those tyres through the tracks. You are a very lucky woman. Very funny, and I think the bromance of Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton's grown a bit more this year.
I think it is because they are the older statesmen on the grid, aren't they? It's them and Kimi Räikkönen, and then it's all of the younger guys.
They've gone through the brash and fiery partnership. Now they're at more of a Lauda and Hunt sort of relationship where
that respect comes through.
They're actually good friends, and they massive respect of the very good drivers that they are. But yeah, Lewis, I don't think you can really say much more. Once he got the lead, he kept the lead, and no one looked like getting close. Yes, it was because of the wake and the dirty air that he was leaving behind that didn't really allow any cars to get close. It was a massive problem at the track for the top cars following, not necessarily in the midfield because they have less downforce, but yeah, the top cars really struggled. But superb race.
The one thing I said to you was the thing that was actually the actual masterstroke from Mercedes was getting Bottas to match Vettel, because once they had their pit stops, Bottas then became a distraction for Ferrari, and it was, we've got to make sure we cover off Bottas so that we don't lose what we have. Do we have that risk of pushing and then end up falling further behind? So Hamilton, yes, it was brilliant to see him managing his tyres the way he did, but it was once again almost that wingman aspect of Valtteri Bottas that led to that win. I'm going to put it out there, as well as Hamilton drove, he would not have won that race had Bottas not been able to start.
Which,
sixth.
Yeah, I was going to say massive, and that is a massive kind of credit. We were both absolutely shocked. I think we just kept on waiting for the notification to be like, Valtteri Bottas starts from the pit lane, or Valtteri Bottas takes 5-10 grid place penalty.
All of the reports that were coming out were the extensive damage. There was no report that came out and said
this is doable.
The damage, this is doable, we'll be able to do it. It wasn't until, I think it was about an hour and a half before the race where there was actually a report saying that Mercedes were confident that they weren't going to have to take penalties.
And you knew at that stage that they were, because you don't come out and say...
Yeah, exactly. You don't come out and say it until you know, because Mercedes are a well-oiled machine when it comes to PR. You have Toto Wolff only giving out information that you need.
It's the way that they always have the camera on him in the garage, and the way that he connects to it. They know how to play up to the media and stuff. It's all part of the Mercedes show. But Valtteri Bottas, the only real criticism I can give, obviously if you check out the driver ratings, you see that I gave him a 7 out of 10. My criticism from there, it'd be interesting to see if you agree, was he wasn't able to make the undercut.
No, but I'd say he was a little bit unlucky with that, because Vettel, I feel Ferrari should have pitted Vettel a lap earlier than they did to avoid the traffic that he was having to fight through. But he got past the traffic and then was in clear air. Bottas then pitted before the traffic, only to come out in more traffic. So it wasn't the greatest of timings of a pit stop by Mercedes. So that would probably be the one thing I'd say strategy-wise. Mercedes probably waited one lap too long, and so did Ferrari on Vettel in particular.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And it's a harsh criticism, but when they're as good as they are in that elite bracket, you have to, if you're going to find any criticism.
I was going to say, I think we can be a little bit more harsher.
Exactly.
On,
we wouldn't say it for like a Renault or a Racing Point type thing. But yeah, that rounds off Mercedes, and obviously already constructors champions, extending that league. I don't know if they can get a record total. Probably not, I reckon.
Off the top of my head, I couldn't even tell you what the record is.
No, I reckon probably maybe in the kind of Hamilton-Rosberg years where it was just complete dominance.
Maybe 2015, the year before Rosberg.
Yeah, I reckon.
Wasn't that the year that they won all but one?
It's an interesting one to put in the comments. Comment below of...
I'm trying to pull things out of my
what is the record number of constructors' points scored in the season? It'll be interesting to know.
I know that Hamilton can break the record for the number of points for a driver. It's his own record.
That's a bit boring then, isn't it?
Yeah. He's got 6 of the top 10, I believe.
Brilliant.
He has got to win 3 of... before Mexico, he had to win 3 of the 4 races there. Bless you.
Thank you.
Or he could get 4 second places to do it.
Yeah.
So...
Not undoable.
No.
But then we should probably move on to the team that, as per usual, start 1-2 and find a way to not make that a race win of 1-2.
No, Ferrari's strategy is confusing to say the least.
How about we just say it's wrong?
No, because the 2-stop was theoretically the faster route to go. It wasn't until they were actually able to get the data from a hard tyre, so seeing Ricciardo and Verstappen, that it actually became possible to actually think the 1-stop could work. So,
but they got it wrong in the aspect that they fitted the medium.
They did it the wrong way around.
Yeah.
If they were going to do a 2-stop, they should have gone medium, hard, medium.
Because they just shot themselves in the foot. They committed themselves to that 2-stop strategy, regardless of what happened. Covering off Albon, and no offence to Albon, but if I'm Ferrari in a race, I'm going to go, Albon's going to have the drive of his life to outperform us in this 2-stop. We should focus on the Mercedes.
Yeah, they should never have been covering off Alexander Albon, because the gap between him and Leclerc anyway wasn't close enough that the undercut was ever going to threaten them. He might have ended up ahead of Leclerc on track, but Leclerc would always have got past. So
exactly,
there was no need to cover him off, and it was by covering Albon that effectively ruined Leclerc's race, because it was clear from that moment on that Hamilton, Bottas and Vettel were definitely going to be doing a 1-stop. And
well, yeah, on pure strategy, they turned a pole position into a P4.
Yeah,
and that's with no kind of getting involved in any incidents or anything like that. It was just pure from pole position. They turned it into a P4 on strategy alone.
Apart from he went wide into turn... Was it turn 3?
What are you thinking at the end?
Yeah.
That was turn 4.
Okay.
So he went 2-3.
One corner 2.
And then he was going for Bottas, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he broke and went right into it.
Yeah, other than that, there weren't really any mistakes in his drive. So, yeah, it wasn't great to see that. And as I said, with regards to Vettel's strategy, I don't understand. It was clear that he was closing in on the traffic, and there was 3 back markers.
Well, I'm going to disagree then. When Hamilton pitted, I would have pitted it.
No, because I still... At that stage, I didn't think that... Pirelli had come out and said 50 laps maximum on the hard tyres. It wasn't a definite that the tyres were going to last that long. Going long there was fine, but once you're coming up to the back markers, there's no point saying to your driver, get through those and then we'll pit you. There was enough of a gap behind that at that stage where he could have... It
was less of a cardinal sin and more easy for us to say in hindsight, but looking at how those top cars followed each other, I don't think a single one of them overtook on track.
Hamilton got past Albon. This is me going through them in my head.
Apart from the Red Bulls, we'll move on to them in just a sec.
No.
But there was, between those top 4, there was no overtaking on track. So it was all pit stops.
Yeah.
So they should have gone at some point and gone, we'll cover Hamilton and we'll say, you've got to get past me. And if they had track position of ahead, it was very close. They would have had to have nailed the pit stop on Vettel, which for Ferrari is difficult to do. But if they give track position, the dominance of the Ferrari on the straight, it proved with Vettel and Bottas later on in the race, they were able to maintain enough of the gap that it wasn't an issue. And it later came out that Lewis had floor damage, so he probably wouldn't have been able to do that. But they didn't know that. No. No, he wasn't. Right, and we move on to Red Bull. And should we start off positive and talk about Alex Albon?
Yes.
And then we'll come on to the angry Bull.
Yes. He is proving that he deserves that Red Bull seat. And yes, I can sit here and say, told you so, because I was saying long before the summer break that he deserved it.
Yeah.
But it was still an unknown at that stage. I just had a feeling. He's gone into the
It's
seat.
good when those feelings come right, though, isn't it?
It does feel
You
good.
want to smile about it, Ash. You want to go gloat.
No, do you know what? It makes me feel like we're doing this YouTube channel and we do know what we're talking about sometimes.
Don't let them know.
So
we always know what we're at.
So, but no, he's come in, and since the summer break, yes, Verstappen has been unlucky in races, but he is outperforming him in races in terms of finishes and points. In qualifying, he matched Verstappen in Suzuka. Yes, he hasn't got very close to him in the others, but he's been within 2-3 tenths on average, hasn't he? Which Gasly was never doing. I can't think of a single race at the start of the season where Gasly got that close to Verstappen in qualifying.
No.
So there's bound to be one, and
Maybe Silverstone. He did okay in Silverstone.
And there's bound to have been a race where he out-qualified Verstappen for some reason.
I think it might have been Silverstone because of some form of... That might not have been. Anyway, I'm just throwing Silverstone.
Let me know, because there is some. It's me not remembering, but Gasly never consistently got close to Verstappen in qualifying, and Albon has. Yes, he hasn't been able to beat him in qualifying, but he's not there to beat Verstappen. He's there to get as close to and to back Verstappen up. That's the role that he's got at Red Bull.
I'm saying it. He is the Valtteri Bottas or the Rubens Barrichello to what Max Verstappen needs. They have found the perfect driver, and for me, if Red Bull can give Max Verstappen a championship-winning car, then they have the perfect combo, and a combo that, if they keep producing the best car, could dominate as much as what Lewis Hamilton, Rosberg, Lewis Hamilton, Bottas have done. Because Albon's only 23, Max is, I think he turned 21 or 22. It was 22 actually early in the year, wasn't it? So both incredibly young drivers. Yes, obviously you got Charles Leclerc in as well, but I think Ferrari still... Ferrari.
I'd go as far as saying they've probably got the second or third best driver partnership on the grid.
Oh, who would be your top three? One's Hamilton, Bottas.
Yeah, my second would be Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. And I would say that at this moment in time, in terms of potential for both and results that they're getting out of the car, I would say that they are just ahead of Vettel and Leclerc.
That's an interesting one. Could be, yeah. But in terms of capable of thing, I mean, McLaren could get it bang on right. They're heading in the right direction in 2021, and you never know what putting that Merc engine's going to do for them. But I just look at the Red Bull, and the driver situation now is perfect. Albon has proven he's consistently scoring points. We said that his driving style would suit it, and it's similar to Max's. Bang, he's doing that. He's doing everything he's need. He hasn't done anything exceptional today.
I would say 4th place in Japan was because he maximised what he could.
Nah, I don't think
he was never going to get a podium, and
but
at everything else equal, he's not going to be getting there.
But in every race for me, he's done that. He hasn't done anything exceptional. He's done what he could have got the most out of that car, which is everything. Max is the one who does something exceptional by winning an Austria or something. In terms of that, Albon isn't there to do something exceptional. If he does, fantastic. Like if Bottas does something exceptional, it's great in Mercedes, but they know at the end of the day, he's there, consistently score points. Max is the guy that's going to go on and win the championship. So I think for me, Red Bull, although it's not quite working at the moment, I think Max is... We'll move on to Max. So it was very good because he was getting a surprise pole. Then it was very bad because he kept going through a yellow flag, and I have heard some kind of controversial to it. The guys admitted it. So there is nothing that, at the end of the day...
One thing to put out there,
yep.
It wasn't his comment that led to the penalty. There was
nothing in the FIA...
there's a lot of that online saying that the only reason it was investigated was because what he said in the press conference. It wasn't that. It's more the fact, yes, we were all looking at it from an F1 perspective. There were other races to go on. They had to make sure the track was in suitable condition for that. It led to a delay in the announcement of it. It wasn't that he made the comment and then it was investigated.
Exactly. Should have really been investigated from the start. It wasn't the best of stewarding, has to be said. They should be criticised there, and I think they've come into criticism, and I think the criticism is fair. It seems a pretty easy decision to me. They had all the telemetry there, they had all the data. It should have been under investigation as soon as it goes, because I think the actual commentary is Martin Brundle going, oh, something doesn't look right there. And that is literally just seeing it as it came through, going, oh, he's got a purple sector. That shouldn't have happened.
Well, I would say the one thing that shows that a penalty was deserved, when you look at the interviews after, Verstappen basically came out and said, I saw it, I carried on. Hamilton, on the other hand, said, I knew that something was up and I was later onto the power because of it. And Hamilton at that stage, there weren't any yellow flags being waved. So it also shows the difference in experience, I would say. Hamilton knows how to work with the media. Verstappen is still quite blunt in his responses. And he didn't do himself any favours by basically just coming out and saying, I ignored the fact there was a crash, because
he needs a media manager. I mean, I'm sure he does, but sometimes he just needs to be told, Max, shut up.
It's more think before you start speaking.
No. Just
it was a quick response.
No, just Max, shut up. Voice these concerns in private. Go, that's absolutely fine. Do not come out in the media and say stuff like that. And then post race, he was coming out about how he thought Lewis should have been punished as well. And I'm just like going, look, I get it because it was frustration. He's a human being. Max had a real opportunity to win here, and it would have made a real statement, because I think we'd written off Red Bull for the rest of the season on their second half performance, and I wasn't expecting him to take pole. It was a fantastic lap to take pole that he would have had anyway if he lifted off. Superb lap by Max. In the race, he had amazing race pace, but the racing incident at the start, it happens. Sometimes it just happens in a race. It's not his fault. And
the way I looked at it, Hamilton didn't intend to oversteer. Verstappen was late onto the brakes going into turn one, where because he was on the inside, he was always going to be pinched by a car. It doesn't matter which car it was. He could have ended up being pinched by Seb, Hamilton, or Carlos Sainz in the end. Turn one in Mexico, you get so many cars arriving at once that something was always going to happen there. Hamilton did his best to avoid, Verstappen did his best to avoid it, and unfortunately it didn't go the way they wanted. But saying that incident wasn't what ruined Verstappen's race. What ruined Verstappen's race was the fact that, I've said it before, he's a little bit like Roman Grosjean in the fact that something happens that frustrates him and he doesn't just let it go and get on with things.
we'll just be careful this, we might make a lot of people angry. Obviously Max Verstappen is a better driver than Roman Grosjean. It's maybe just a similar trait. So we've got to cover our bases here. If you've just put Roman Grosjean and Max Verstappen in you're going to cause riots here.
They both have the same aspect, that if something happens, they dwell on it too long in the race. And
they're brash in their attempts to go for gaps.
Exactly. Even after the incident, I felt Verstappen was probably the one that was likely to win the race, because the Red Bull had been good on its tyres throughout practice, so feasibly, and as was proven, he could do the one stop. So he was in a good position. The thing that ruined his race was he went back to the old Verstappen of seeing a gap and thinking, I'm going for this now, not this isn't a place to overtake. And Martin Brundle said it in the commentary, you don't see cars of an equal standing overtaking each other through the stadium section. He's gone for a gap that was closing because Bottas was turning in, as he would do for the corner, ended up with the puncture, and that was what ruined his race.
Absolutely, and although, yes, admittedly it was a great drive from then, certainly not driver of the day worthy. But Max is a popular guy and he tends to get the pole hijacked from there. Because we've seen it with a lot of the top teams drivers. I can only think of, I think it was Bottas in Hungary, who didn't actually manage, when he went back, get to the P6 within the top two. I think Carlos Sainz finished P5 ahead of him. But generally as a whole in this rule, if one of the top team drivers go back, their cars are so far superior to the rest of the field, it's a matter of time before they make it through. So although it is a good achievement to do it, it's not something that we should go, wow, he came from all the way to the back on a one stop and did that. It was still a good achievement, but the cars that he's going, well, it's like having a road car against a go-kart. It's not as extreme about that, but you know what I mean in terms of their... For me, Max Verstappen, incredibly frustrating just on the pure fact that it happened from Spa, and then his kind of very outside chance of the title went from Spa. I mean, we forget, at the end of Hungary, second place in the championship looked his. And he's just fallen so far, his inconsistencies. He's been involved in some incidents that's not his fault, some incidents that are his fault, and he just needs...
And then some incidences where you can argue it either way.
Exactly. Like Charles Leclerc has had a reset. He just needs the reset button over the winter break and come back much stronger next year and go to the driver who had completed 21 consecutive races in the top 5, where he didn't do anything stupid, he drove sensibly, he drove fast, and he got his car in good positions. And then we move on to the rest of the midfield, who again had some very good racing within, and probably tyre manager of the day is not Lewis Hamilton, very close to this lead, but Daniel Ricciardo, who was the last to pit. And you said earlier on in this review that Pirelli said 50 laps was the maximum. Well, Ricciardo took that maximum and he did it. Yeah. He pitted on lap 50 and then had 21 laps on a softer medium tyre for the rest of the race and managed to finish P8. It was a fantastic drive for him, and just the result Renault really kind of needed after the week that they had.
Yeah, and one of the things I read online this morning was that Ricciardo kept locking up because he was having to control his brake bias. Yeah, not true.
Ricciardo kept locking up. Well, I didn't really see him lock up on his first stint at all, if anything. I can't remember any of that.
I can only think of 2 real lockups anyway.
I only think of the one, which was the major one, which was he chose the wrong point to try and overtake Sergio at the end, lost his chance, and then never really got close enough to Sergio after that.
But yeah, it's not true that there were lockups from Daniel Ricciardo because he was having to control his brake bias on his own. He would have been doing it at Red Bull last season, and he is a good enough driver to be able to do it. He's
a driver that, as you say it, licks the stamp and posts it.
Yeah.
Into the corner, he brakes as late as he can, and sometimes he brakes too late, and then that results in a lock-up because he needs to turn the car, but he is not done braking yet.
No.
But yeah, it was a fantastic race by Daniel Ricciardo, and the other one in his home Grand Prix, I think he deserves a special mention, is Sergio Perez. I think after the qualifying reaction, I went, he is in a great position to do well in the race because he is in P11, he gets that tyre choice, and well, he made the most of it. And
well, if you look at the result, the 4 cars that got into Q3 that weren't starting on the mediums dropped. It was just unfortunate.
Toro Rosso stayed.
They weren't really in the race though, were they?
They
came back into it.
Yeah, exactly. Nico Hulkenberg, it shows Nico Hulkenberg didn't have a great race because he wasn't keeping up with Ricciardo and was back towards the Toro Rossos who had done 2 stops, and proves Lance Stroll probably didn't have the best of races either because he was behind both of them.
Yeah, starting on the softs was never going to work. And
not for a smaller team.
I'm correct, wasn't it only Ricciardo that started on the hards though? Or did one of the Williams?
I think Checo might have.
No, I don't think he did. I think he started on the mediums.
And then finished on the hards. Okay. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And it was thanks to Ricciardo that Hamilton, Vettel and Bottas knew that they could do the 1 stop. So imagine what could have happened if they hadn't had...
So yeah, I'm sure Mercedes gave Ricciardo some tacos.
Yeah.
You've
got to thank him for it.
Yeah, exactly. But Sergio, great race. After retiring in last year's race, he was probably desperate to do well. He always loves it. And you can tell how much support he's got because every time he did an overtaking move or when Ricciardo locked up and Perez went straight through, you just heard in the background of the stadium just go, "Ah! Checo is through!" He has massive support out there. But it was fantastic drive by both of those. And I think to round off the race, last points is just the incident between Kvyat and Hulkenberg. Kvyat, very unusual. I've been a big fan of him this season. But
what, unusual that the torpedo happened?
Well, no, it was just very unusual, his comments post-race of them. He went in on the stewards saying they're ruining racing, I thought we were allowed to race. And I'm like, you put your car in a place that you were never going to overtake and made someone crash into a wall. How can you...
Yeah, it wasn't great.
The FIA, I think, basically came out and said, this was very clear-cut.
It was probably the easiest decisions the stewards had all weekend.
So. And it's cost Renault a point because it meant Pierre Gasly got promoted to P9. So maybe it was on that aspect of things.
Maybe. It was just... It was unfortunate for Hulkenberg, but then again, he was another one he didn't really seem at the races. But
I think he is...
I'd say from 8th down, no one really seemed very competitive.
The Alfa Haas and the Williams all seem in 2020 mode to me.
Yeah.
They're just collecting race data so that they can put into programs and try and improve next year. So that was that incident. Pretty clear cut and dry. Daniel Kvyat a little bit weird coming out. I don't think anyone really is backing him up and saying it's wrong. Although I did see, I think Aldas was saying that he felt that Hulkenberg maybe slowed a bit too much and opened up the opportunity, but I don't really see anyone overtake there. And I don't think there is with the wide cars.
It's not really an overtaking.
No, if the cars were narrower, you can get away with it a little bit more, but because of how wide and long they are, it was just a bit stupid place to do it. And then retirements were Kimi Raikkonen. I believe he got some floor damage. I think it was an incident between him and Kevin Magnussen near the start of the race. Magnussen completed the race with floor damage but had no real pace, but I don't think the Haas had any real pace anyway. Grosjean also suffered something because he dropped right to the back at the start of the race. Still couldn't figure out what that was. I don't think... In all honesty, I don't think anyone particularly cared because it didn't really affect the race either way in anything. Then obviously Paul Lando, probably overtaken. At times, Sainz and him have both been the unluckiest drivers on thing. But I think Lando Norris well and truly has that trophy for this year.
Yeah, and with his pit stop, incredibly unlucky. So the wheel nut actually got cross-threaded, so the wheel gun registered the correct amount of torque to say that it was on properly, and it wasn't until the gunman actually took it away that he knew that it wasn't on properly. The good thing for them was that they were able to say pretty quickly, stop, but at that stage, it was over for him at that.
I said in my driver ratings, it might have been even better for him to just carry on going and just sack it off.
Yeah.
Because
being 2 laps down, well, actually, he got closer to the 4 laps down that my bold prediction was.
Oh, from Kubica.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So, but no, we're joking about it. It was incredibly unlucky for him in that situation.
And it's another incident that was completely out of Lando's control.
Yep.
Very unlucky, 2 races in a row. Like I said, I think he actually come out in the build-up to this race and said, having looked at the Albon incident, he feels differently about it now. In terms of he feels that maybe it should have been a penalty, which I kind of agree with. Albon did what Kvyat did this race. He put his car in a place that was never going to overtake, and you just have to look at the history books. 1989, Senna and Prost, you don't overtake there. Anyway, that's moving on. That was the race, and the only way we finish off a race review podcast, which is giving our rookie of the weekend, and I think we are going to really come to an easy agreement on this one because 3 of them really had irrelevant races.
Who are you going to say then?
Albon.
I was going to say George Russell.
Oh well. Sorry, I think 3 of them had irrelevant races. Mine is Alexander Albon because he's Mr. Consistent, he's doing it. The only one who could challenge him was Lando Norris, but he had to retire. Your thoughts on Russell then?
George Russell, he's in a Williams and he finished above someone on pace. It wasn't because the fact that someone retired, and he kept Grosjean behind him. Had a good battle with Kubica, which I actually enjoyed watching them race. You don't see it often, but it was a nice battle between them. And yeah, I just think it's in a car that has struggled for downforce. They're at a track where the description of it is you put Singapore and Monaco level downforce on and you have the same equivalent downforce as Monza. So in a car that has no downforce anyway, I just thought it was quite a good race weekend for him.
I think he did well, but for me now, Giovinazzi and Russell are out the picture in this one because their car development has gone so far. Their teams aren't concentrating on this season, so they're out of the picture. So therefore, it's only between Albon and Norris. Norris retired, so by default, Albon for me was rookie of the week. But it's good, to have discussions and it was nice that we appreciate it. I do really like George, but I feel sorry for him.
We're fans of George.
We are, but we gave.
To be fair, I feel bad for Giovinazzi because he's the only rookie we don't seem to be a fan of.
No, I like Giovinazzi. He's grown on me the second half of the season, and I'm defending him when people were saying halt for the seat. I was like, that'd be incredibly harsh on Giovinazzi because I think he's done more than enough. This was the first time he hasn't out-qualified Raikkonen in a while. And again, he's beaten Raikkonen in the race. So he's been doing...
Raikkonen retired.
And he's retired nothing. But he's beaten him technically in the race. Yeah. He's got the car round to the finish line.
I jumped on the fact that Albon beat Verstappen in Japan and Verstappen retired, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. See, look, there we go, we got it. Anyway, guys, that is another race review podcast. Hope you've enjoyed that. I think we've managed to string that one out quite well in terms of how fairly. I gave it a 6 out of 10 race. I thought it was a good race that was kind of threatening to kind of get to the boil, and I thought we were going to have a really good climax to the race, but it kind of really failed to live up to the hype. I think Sky shot themselves in the foot by Crofty and Brundle kind of really building it up.
Curse.
And then it just proved in 2021 they need to get those rules right, or the aero right, that the cars can follow easier.
But we'll know by next week.
We will. 31st of October.
Yeah, no, this is the review, not the preview.
It comes out.
I was about to say.
It comes out today. So on the Friday, I might cancel the F1 Fantasy Weekly show, and I might just do a full one on the F1 2021 rules. Let us know if you would like to see that video. But guys, if you like the video, don't forget, let us know, give it a thumbs up.
Make sure to press the subscribe button. As I've said in plenty of videos at the moment, we're having roughly 60 to 70% of people that aren't subscribed watching the videos. Great to have you on board so that you're getting all of the content we're putting out there. And if you are pressing that bell icon, you will get a notification when one of our videos goes into your YouTube inbox.
Get involved in the comments, guys. Let us know your thoughts on the race, your thoughts on the instance, your thoughts on, I mean, I can tell just in terms of views that actually the qualifying was far more talked about than the race itself. I think only kind of about 100 odd people watched the kind of race review, but everyone wanted to know about that Max incident from there, and that was probably the main controversy. And in Max ruling himself out early, probably ruled out a very exciting end, because he somehow manages to ignore the fact that cars can't really chase each other and still manages to chase them, because I feel like Austria was a prime example of that, where somehow he caught Charles Leclerc. But guys, that is the end of it. Hope you've enjoyed, and remember, you F1 fans, keep racing.